there was a defining moment where I ran into Daryl Singletary on a vacation. And, you know, when somebody you looked up to your entire life as one of your biggest musical influences looks you up and down and says, what in the hell are you doing? It makes you second guess everything. And so that meantime, I'd really starting to find out about Texas, and I found out about Cody Johnson, and I realized there were people out there doing the kind of music I wanted to do, and they were being successful doing it. So that was kind of the moment when I was like, it's time to get back to my...
The intersection of good drinks, good music, and good times. This is Hops and Spirits Bar Conversations.
Joining us here for our conversation this week, he's a country artist, songwriter. He's got a brand new single out, When in Rum. Welcome in, David Adam Byrnes.
Hey, what's going on, my man?
Not much. And I said it right. Now I panicked because after all that talking.
No, nailed it. Perfection.
Okay. I was like, it's so simple. I screwed it up. But and you said you've had people mess up this name? Because I don't feel like it's that difficult.
Oh, man, on stage, on marquees. I mean, my favorite thing as a kid was to rush to the phone when the telemarketers would call to see if they were even remotely close. So.
Well, and, you know, I'm curious, too. This is Bar Conversations. You got anything good tonight? And if not, if you're behaving yourself, because it is hot everywhere here, it seems, what's your go-to drink?
I'm definitely doing the water in the old Yeti because it is 106 degrees right now at 7:30 o'clock at night. So, but man, Jack Daniels is my go-to. In the summer, I've become fond of Moscow Mules, and then for cold beers, man, I'm all about them Yellow Bellies and Coors Banquet. So.
I like it. So do you when Mother Nature cooperates and lets you have something a little stronger? Is it bourbon and whiskeys? I mean, you do have a song called When in Rum. So, I mean, are you having a little bit of each?
There's not really a drink I'll turn down. I'll have a little bit of it all. But yeah, I mean, whiskey's definitely the favorite. I've had every type of, expensive bourbon and all that. I mean, I'm getting married here in a couple of months, and I asked for Gentleman Jack because it was a special occasion. So, but
you're high class.
I'll tell you, man.
So for this one, I went a little Texas, a little Milam and Green.
Yeah, man, I've had that too. That's good stuff.
So I had to have a little something for that. I'm definitely right now with as hot as it is. Yeah, we went out to the farm, one of our friends' farms, and yeah, there was no heavy liquor. That seemed like a bad idea.
Yeah, it's we're still stupid when we do it, but you just got to make sure you put that water in there somewhere.
Absolutely. Now, I saw this debate on your Facebook or Instagram the other day. I don't know if you ever chimed in because I saw you pose the question, Velveeta shells or Kraft for some mac and cheese?
Man, it's totally shells, and my fiance will not eat them. And I literally, if we have mac and cheese, I have to make what she wants and what I want, or I just eat what she wants. And I'm like, I didn't even think I was surprised how many people actually liked the Kraft. I was like, I am not a fan. Her excuse is the whole, you're just eating that processed cheese. I'm like, the cheese you're eating is a powder until you put it in it. Like, what is any better about that? So, yeah, I will say, though, I saw a lot of people saying homemade on there, and I was like, yeah, touche on that one. But, for the sake of the quick dinner conversation. It's not bad, but.
With a 4-year-old, Kraft's pretty easy, but my wife does make a very nice homemade mac and cheese.
Well, see, that's my thought there. I was like, when you're a little kid and your mom doesn't want to put any time or effort into it, yeah, Kraft sounds good. But, I mean, even me with the other, man, I'm adding extra cheeses and other stuff. It's not like just here's the package put in, but I don't know. Apparently I'm doing it wrong.
Or everyone else is. Who knows?
See, then there's that.
And I also, speaking of that, I think you've been putting in some work, too, down there on your ranch and getting it all fixed up for life. Is that right?
Yeah, we moved out here back in March, and so there's been a lot of learning. I grew up on land, but I didn't grow up on a ranch with cattle on it. So it's been a learning experience, but I guess I'm earning that cowboy reputation after all. So.
You're living the life, right?
Something like that. I'm learning pretty quickly. Whatever the lady wants, you just got to learn how to deal with. So here we are. But no, it's fun. It's a good getaway from music. See. But no, it's music has been 24/7, 100% of my life, and so it's good to have something to kind of have an escape and get away from it that isn't drinking and doing other things that are bad for me. At least I'm out here being active and getting in shape and just doing something that I can look at the future and see an actual something positive come from, I guess.
Well, and you mentioned having animals out there. So what all have you put out on the ranch so far?
Well, like I said, her family does Longhorn, and so that was the ultimate goal, was to get Longhorn out here. But she wants a chicken coop and all the other stuff. So far, I hadn't heard of goats, so I think I'm safe there. But all of a sudden, I showed up home off the road, and we had two new barn cats that I didn't know we needed. So I don't know. It's starting to go towards zoo status if we keep adding too many more.
Well, I mean, the chicken coop, though, makes sense. I mean, egg prices got pretty high there for a while.
I'm all for the eggs. I'm not for what the eggs bring, which are snakes. I'm not a snake fan. I hate snakes. I don't want to be around them. And so, yeah, that's the part there. I'm like, I ain't going in that coop. That's going to be your job. You want it, you deal with it, because I ain't doing that.
Well, it sounds as you keep adding animals, then you got to, maybe get some dogs to protect the other animals. You will have a zoo soon.
Well, we do have we got the dog and the two inside cats that both came with the relationship. But the dog, they've all become my buddy over time. I wasn't a cat person before we started dating, but I've learned to love these two cats. But Cash, my little buddy, in fact, he's over there pouting there because he can't come be a part of this right now. So.
Hey, I have had a few animals make an appearance, so it is quite all right if he does.
If he doesn't pop in here by the end of this, it will be a miracle. So.
Well, and like I said, your fiance, congrats on the upcoming nuptials and so forth. Right. And clearly, you've gotten some good advice because you're happy wife, happy life. Any other interesting advice that you've received along the way?
Pick your battles. I guess that's probably the biggest one. But no, I grew up in kind of an old-fashioned home. My parents are old enough to really be my grandparents, if we're being completely honest. And so. I was just kind of raised by that old generation of you figure it out and you work through things. And so that's where we're at. Obviously we've been together for a few years now to be getting married, but I know there will be things that come along through life, and batter up. We'll take a swing, see how it goes when they come.
Like a couple extra cats at the house or the barn.
Exactly. Hey, as long I told her, I said, you can get as many barn cats as you want as long as they ain't in this dang house. So.
Yeah, one of my least favorite things to ever do was clean the litter box, and
No. That's the one thing of whenever she gets pregnant. She's like, you got to do that, and I'm like, the heck I am. I don't touch. Nope. The dog goes outside. We got all this acreage for him to do his business. I ain't touching that cat crap.
Now you mentioned your mom and dad. Where does your love of music come from?
My dad always had country music on in the mornings, a local station, and I would flip over to TNN, but it was just all I ever really knew. They took me to see George Strait when I was 3, and at 3 years old, I was like, I want to be like him. And so, obviously the goal was to be like George, and that's where it mainly came from. But now that I'm older and I look back, I mean, country music was always such a big part of our household, especially with my dad. So I'm sure it's a smorgasbord of all that.
Well, and you grew up in Arkansas. What impact did that have on you, whether it was personally or musically or both?
All of it. Like I said, growing up in it's like being raised by your grandparents. So I was kind of taught more old school values. And, even in Arkansas, we had a legendary radio DJ named Bob Robbins that built the empire that was Kissin' 96. And, if it wasn't country music, he didn't play it. It was back in the old days when local radio played local radio. It didn't matter what was being shoved down, the throats by the mainstream world. And so, it's kind of funny because me and Justin Moore and Heath Sanders and, like Joe Nichols, I mean, there's so many of us that kind of grew up in that same area, and we all kind of have that same standard of traditional country that we expect to hear. And so I think a lot of it definitely is that territory and being that close to Texas. And I don't know. We're all stubborn. We like a certain kind, and we won't budge away from it. So it's got to be something about growing up there.
Hey, I mean, there's just some things where you grow up. I mean, everyone's got it.
Right. No, there's no doubt about that. I think Bob had a big influence on all of us.
And obviously, getting to listen to that kind of country and kind of being in country music as well. What were some of the artists that made a big impact on you growing up?
My joke is that if you wore a hat in the '90s, yes. um, I was
There were a couple. There were a couple.
there's a few. No, I mean, the biggest obviously George Strait, and then Mark Chestnut and Tracy Lawrence and Alan Jackson. I loved Rhett Akins, Daryl Singletary. I was a huge fan of. I mean, I could go on and on. Wade Hayes and on down the list. Clay Walker, all those guys. But I, George Strait was really the main. I mean, as a kid, if George wouldn't wear it, I wouldn't wear it. I mean, there was people that probably till about I was age 9 or 10 years old didn't know my name was David. They knew me as George. But when I got into high school and this country kind of started going more pop on the mainstream side, I started really digging back and wanted to know who made the guys that made my influences. And so that's when I really got into Merle Haggard and George Jones. And I took it as far back as Lefty Frizzell. Once I got back that far, I was like, I think we got the point across. But, Keith Whitley was a big one that I got into there my senior year. Just, all them guys that I thought did real country music.
Well, I mean, I was going to say, is that why you always have the cowboy hat on when you're on stage and not like the hat, for those watching, not the hat that you got on right now?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's my George Strait influence, but that's what I always wore growing up. I mean, at school, I wasn't allowed to wear it. So as soon as I got home, I had my cowboy hat on. And so, when I moved to Nashville, the first thing they did was take off that hat, take off them Wranglers. And so when I hit the restart button and I moved to Texas, I said, man, I don't know. I'm going to go back to doing who I've always been. And so that's what I did.
Well, I was going to say, and it's an interesting kind of, journey that you've taken. And it started with that move to Nashville because you went there, age 19, 18, something like that?
19. I'd started making trips earlier than that, but I finally made the plunge and moved there then. But yeah, man, it was an awesome experience. I was a very sheltered, very, very, very sheltered kid. There's no bad people. Everybody's a good person until they prove they're not. And found out the hard way that that's not the reality of life. But how many people can say that they just took a plunge and chased their dream when they're that young and are still doing it to this day? And I learned some hard lessons the hard way, but the reality of it was I got to be around the best writers in the world, and I learned how to be a songwriter. I got to be around the best musicians in the world and become a better musician. And at the end of the day, I got to be around people that are the best at what they do in the music world, and I got to learn from them. And so, not every task was learned the way I would like to have learned it, but at the end of the day, it made me who I am, and it brought me where I am now. But people always say, weren't you terrified at 19? I said, no, I was terrified at dang near 30 years old moving after I'd been there 11 years. When I was 19, I was too young and stupid to even realize what I was doing. I just knew if you want to be a country singer, you got to go to Nashville. So my entire life, that had been the plan, and that's what I did.
I was going to say, ignorance is bliss, right? I mean, you knew nothing else.
Exactly. It was. It's pretty funny. My parents were letting me make the trips there, but they were just hell bent on, you need to have a plan. You can't just pack up and move. And so when I decided I was going to do it, I just announced to them and everybody. I had a weekly show at a little Mexican joint in my hometown that I played at every Tuesday night. And they found out along with everybody else that, by the way, y'all, next week's my last show. I'm going to move to Nashville the next day. So
I bet you they love that.
The look and the jaw drop I got was pretty intriguing, but it seemed to all work out.
Well, I was gonna say it was a long journey, but it has worked out. But like you said, you had success there, but then obviously I don't want to say horror stories that can come up with the industry, but the bumps in the road that could come with the music business happened. And then, like you said, you decided to kind of switch things up, and it was I think you getting together with Trent Willman was a big impact on a lot of things, right?
Oh, that was the moment everything changed. If I'm going to be completely honest, I probably could have had a lot of success in Nashville. I probably could have been a household name, but I would have had to have done music that I didn't want to do and that I wasn't proud of. And I did that for a minute. I started having success. I started having interest at publishers and labels and stuff, but there was a defining moment where I ran into Daryl Singletary on a vacation. And, when somebody you looked up to your entire life as one of your biggest musical influences looks you up and down and says, what in the hell are you doing? It makes you second guess everything. And so that meantime, I'd really starting to find out about Texas, and I found out about Cody Johnson, and I just I realized there were people out there doing the kind of music I wanted to do, and they were being successful doing it. And so that was kind of the moment when I was like, it's time to get back to my roots. And so luckily I had a friend in common with Trent that linked us up for a writing session, and one writing session turned about three more, and those three more turned into doing a record together. And it was the biggest blessing I could ever had, because it was the first time a producer wasn't trying to make me be something I wasn't. It was, yeah, you should do this song. It's not too country. Yes, there should be fiddle here. Yes, there should be steel guitar here. At that time, nobody was recording that kind of music. So, I mean, I remember we went in that studio session that day. Nobody wanted to leave, musicians and all. We were just all so excited to be making that kind of country music in Nashville. And so I knew I had something special when I saw them light up like that, but I started seeing the writing on the wall that I didn't think Nashville was the place to be for it. And so, man, I packed up and hit the restart button, and best decision I ever made.
I mean, I was going to say, I've talked to a lot of folks, one of the hardest things for them is to find their sound. When I talked to Frank Ray, they wanted to pigeonhole him into, being a Latin country guy and all these like tequila type songs and,
Yeah.
and then, stuff like that. How important was it for you to find that sound that's your sound and be able to perform it and enjoy it?
What's so funny is I never had to find it. It's literally what I came to town wanting to do. And I guess more than anything, it was the validation of doing that, and that people liked it, and that I could make a career doing it. That was probably more of the big moment for me. But I I got so far away from who I was for many, many years. So, the second that first number one happened, and just to see things, I remember bawling my eyes out like a little baby. You've heard no for your entire career, your entire life, and you finally do something that works. And man, it was an awesome feeling. So it's back to your question, man. It's just great to know what I always wanted to do works. I remember hearing Garth saying some comment about, it's one thing to have a music career, but it's another thing to do it doing music you absolutely love. Man, I'm doing music I absolutely love, and I may not ever sell out an arena, and that's fine with me. If I can make this kind of music my entire life and make a career out of it, you ain't ever hear a complaint from me.
Well, it's like when people say they don't really have a job. It's a fun hobby or whatever, however
Yeah.
they look at it. It's like it's not
Yeah.
work. It's something I enjoy, and I feel like that's what you're saying is this is something you're actually having fun doing, and other people
Absolutely.
are enjoying it too.
Now, don't get me wrong, it's work. It's the business side makes you want to rip your hair out and cuss and just second guess everything. But when that song comes to life and you get on stage and you see somebody sing it to you, that's the moment it's all worth it.
And like you said, you moved back down to Texas. Obviously, hindsight, perfect move, the best thing you could have asked for. But like you
Right.
said, at the time though, that was in a sense a risk to kind of move away from Nashville and kind of do your own thing.
It was, I mean, even Trent couldn't understand what I was doing. Even Trent was like, "Man, you got this great record. Why would you want to go down there? It's so oversaturated." I said, "Because I've been here for 11 years being told no. I want to go somewhere where I have a chance to be told yes." And, it's been a fun ride. Life has come fast in these 5 years, but it's been worth every bit of it.
Well, no, I was going to say, I mean, obviously Texas loves music, though. I mean, there's a hell of a music scene down there. I mean, what's
It
it
is.
been like to be part of that? Where, like you said, you were hearing guys like Cody Johnson and others that are putting out stuff that you like, and it's clearly a place that's embraced you and your sound.
It is. It's funny. I get down here and then kind of the rock sound takes over. And what I do is kind of put a little bit on the back burner. So I feel like I'm going through 2.0 on it. But, no matter what, people still love this music. And the fan base here is just, I don't want to call it insane because that sounds like a bad thing, but they are. They're insane. If they buy into you at any point in their life, they are a fan for life. They're going to come to the shows for life. They'll hear you one night, hear one song, and run straight to the merch table to buy something just because they know that you need the support. It's kind of funny because, me being in Nashville, I'm used to the rooms where people are spending more time talking to each other than listening to you. And so, man, when we go out of state, sometimes my guys are like, "What's going on? This is weird." And I'm like, "Man, we're just spoiled by Texas. That's the way it is here at home." But it's it's how every music scene should be. I guess that's the way. So they've set the bar and the standard of what it should be like when you go out and play music.
Well, I was going to say, I think on a Monday night, Tuesday night, no matter where you're at, if there's a band playing, there's going to be people there, and they'll be out on the dance floor or they'll be singing along, and I think that's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
Well, I mean, until you get to the point where you're selling out the huge venues, I mean, every place you play is a barbecue restaurant by day or taco joint during the day and a venue by night. And so it's just every corner you go, there's somewhere to play music. I mean, it reminds me of Broadway in Nashville, to where there's a bar every 5 feet. Well, here it's that same way. It's just, it ain't one street. It's just spread out across the whole state.
Maybe 5 miles.
Yeah, few mile radius miles there, but
And obviously, like I said at the beginning, you got a brand new song out, "Win and Rum." It's a fun song. What made you want to write that one and put that one out?
you know, that's one of them kind of clever titles I'd had in my phone forever and ever and ever, and just never felt like it was the right time to write it. And I got in the room that day with Jay Brunswick and Carlton Anderson, who I've written a lot of my songs with, some of my number ones with, and I don't know, it just seemed like the day to finally write that sucker. And so we wrote it, and it was kind of more Kenny Chesney, beach vibe, that kind of thing. It was a cool song, not necessarily what I do. And so when we came time to start tracking for the rest of this record, I brought it up to my co-producer, my engineer with me, and I was like, is there something to this? And he goes, it is. But he goes, but something about it's just rubbed me wrong. And so we had rolled the song out. We weren't going to cut it because we didn't feel like it was a David Adam Byrnes song. And all of a sudden, that next morning, Bart wakes up and he goes, wait a minute, what if we turn that into a country shuffle and just honky-tonk it and do it you? Well, there it was. Then the song came to life. We put fiddle and steel guitar on it, made a honky-tonk song out of it, and ta-da, there it was. And so it came out cool. I knew it was a summer fun vibe, and so I thought, here in July, I guess, is when we put it out. I thought that was just perfect timing for it, and so far it's been good to us.
Well, and it's a little different follow up than I think maybe some of your other songs that you put out, especially like "She Don't," which I know it wasn't written about your fiance, but I believe you, when talking about it, you're like, man, this is just her, and it was like just meant destiny, right?
It was, it was funny. I remember going back to that Neon Town record that I did with Trent, and I remember we were going through song after song, and he's just grinning ear to ear about, I had 11 years worth of songs I'd never recorded. So, we had a pile a mile wide, and I remember Trent just stopped middle of it, got the serious look on his face, and he goes, I bet you got a lot of dudes at your shows. And I was like, what in the heck does that mean? And he said, you ain't got any love songs, man. I was like, I ain't had a single reason to write one. And ironically, a week or two after that, we wrote that song. It just didn't fit the Neon Town project. And honestly, the demo when we wrote it was pretty bro country. That's a part of the reason why I never liked the song. I just wasn't what I did,
And
it
wasn't you.
And you fast forward, 5-6 years later, and now I know what I need to do to make a song that I feel is a little too pop. Well, let's just throw fiddle and steel all over it and twang it up. And I just got thinking about Amanda, and I was like, man, it's time. It's a perfect time to do that song. And so we went out and shot that video, like you said, at the same place that we're going to get married at. And so it was a cool moment. And it was cool to kind of give her a little something. She supports me more than any woman ever should support this career. And so I thought, if nothing else, man, it was a nice little gesture for her.
Well, and I was going to say, if you haven't yet, a good shirt idea, twang it up with a steel guitar and a fiddle on there. But you need to make one if you don't.
Well, we got one right now that says, if you don't like country music, you're wrong. But I think that might be the next step towards that.
Because, it seems like there's a smidge of recipe there that tends to work out for you. And, when you're obviously coming from how you want to write songs and things like that, not doing kind of what you did early on in your career, what's your writing process like? Obviously, I know you got some notes on your phone and probably a lot of them, but what's that process like for you?
For me, it's all about a good idea. Some people can start with a melody. Some people can just start writing and have no direction where they're going. But for me, like I want to know what the hook's going to be. I want to know what the overall twist, is there something unique about this song that makes it, stand out? Because, once you've written enough songs, you don't need another one that you're just going to throw in the back of a catalog and never look again. So I like to know if there's a good idea that's worth chasing, and then kind of map out what the storyline's going to be, and then find a melody, and then let the words write itself. And it doesn't always work out that way, but that's usually the formula.
Well, I was going to say, sometimes you got to get the not great ones out so you can get to the great ones, right?
Well, there was plenty of those. I hope we're past that quota.
Well, and two, are you like obviously growing up on the country that you did, and then going further back into the 70s, 80s, maybe even into the 60s a little bit. Clearly, you like to be a storyteller, and is that kind of where, whether it's experiences or ideas, that's what you're hoping to get out there and have people feel the song?
Absolutely. I'm not going to pretend that I've had some super hard life. I had a family that was very good to me. I mean, the hardest part of my life has been the music business and some of the stuff that's come along with it, which don't get me wrong, I wouldn't wish some of this stuff on my worst enemies. But, I think authenticity comes from stuff that you've lived and can relate to. And that's why, I've got some really, really great songs that were fun to write, but I don't relate to them, and you'll probably never hear me record them. But, it's just, if I went through it, somebody's went through it, and that could be good, it could be bad, it could be love, it could be a breakup, it could be beer drinking, it could be anything. But if I've lived it, somebody's had to have lived it. If they can relate to it, then I'm gonna try to deliver it to them the best I can that they can feel that song.
And then, obviously, like I said, When in Rum is out. Any other new music coming out that you can say? I don't want to get you in trouble with your team.
Yeah, yeah, no,
some of them can be a little, don't say too much.
No, man, the good thing is with my team, I'm kind of the leader of the pack, and I ain't good at secrets. So, we continued like we did on the Keep Up with the Cowgirl record, where we're dropping a new song every single month that leads to an album release. So we actually just have, we got the number one song on radio in Texas right now with Drinking Games. And obviously we've had some digital releases since then, which is Win and Run. But the next one is going to be the next radio single. It's going to come out in about 3 weeks. So I think we're going to let us get this number one out of the way this week, and then we'll start talking about it. But we'll release a couple of more of those digitals, and then we've got a whole entire record that we're going to get ready to get behind here in the fall. So I think October's kind of what we're looking at after the wedding, and get that out of the way so I can not make her mad. But it's looking like probably late October, maybe early November, that we'll have an entire record coming out.
You mean she doesn't want you doing like a radio interview in the morning and then walking down the aisle in the evening?
Yeah, I think it's more the honeymoon and the prep that we're worried about. But we'll, I'm gonna try to make sure me and her are the focus of that day and not getting distracted, because Lord knows the music business. Every time you think you got a minute off, something gets your attention. You got to deal with it. So.
Absolutely, absolutely, and it's interesting too to hear you talk about how you're releasing stuff, because nowadays it's kind of like you're back in the 50s and 60s. You got a single, and that's kind of all you put something out, and that's how people play it. And you actually are putting out radio singles and having success. What's that like to kind of have almost an old school flair to everything?
It's the music industry always changes, and you got to roll with it. The method I'm doing right now may not work next year, but for some reason I've cracked the code for the time being, and I'm just running with it. But, the reality is I had one record come out in those 11 years that I was in Nashville. I mean, I guess you can count that little EP, but there's so many songs that I wrote in that time frame that I never got to put out. And so for me, it's just speed rushing all these songs out, between stuff I'm writing brand new and a lot of the songs that I've always wanted to release. It's just, I'm finally getting a chance to make all that music be heard. So, hopefully that well don't run dry. I should be slowing down a little bit, because obviously I can't write 24/7 as life gets busier. But, for me, it's getting all those songs I always believed in out. And so as long as I can keep doing that, I'm going to keep rolling with it.
Well, and clearly you've had some success. I mean, is it 8 straight number ones down in Texas?
This one's number 9 right here. So we're
number
at 9
so.
as of this week.
Well, and I was going to say, is there any like pressure? Because are you 9 for 9 at the moment?
Yeah.
Or is this like a no-hitter jinx? You know what I mean? Like, I hope I didn't do it.
Man, every time I just go, I hope I can keep this up. But, my bragging point is I'm the only artist in the history of this Texas chart to have every song ever go number 1. And so, is there pressure to do it again? Yeah. But at the end of the day, I'm going to keep doing what I do. If it doesn't work, then that'll be my sign that I need to consider changing something up. And I'm not a big fan of change, so I'm just going to keep rolling with it until that happens.
Well, and like you said, you've got some new life experiences about to happen. You're getting married. You have animals on the farm. I mean, it sounds like a whole new things to write about. And obviously, you got the wedding, honeymoon coming up, the album. What else can folks expect from you in 2023, and then maybe even on to 2024?
Just more of what we're doing. The reality is, we're growing every single day, every single show, every single song, but we still got a long ways to go. So it's just trying to spread that word, get out there. I would love to be a part of a major tour at some point. Something we can really get out there and be in front of a lot more people at once. But I'm a obviously there's the end goal that you want, which is selling out arenas and being the next George Strait. But I'm fully aware that you got to be realistic and make ones that are in reach. So right now in reach is that 10th number one, and getting the next song to do even better at streaming, and to I don't know if another record deal's in place, but I mean, I would love to have one if it makes sense. But at the end of the day, I just want to grow this thing, get more and more fans. And so every move we're doing is doing that. So as long as that's happening, we're in business.
Well, and like you said, obviously you've had a ton of success in Texas and probably, a smidge beyond on the borders there. But how important is it to grow beyond that and be able to have that fan base that no matter where you're at, they're wild and crazy and loving everything you're putting out?
Oh, it's very important. I mean, if you look at a lot of the stations that are on this Texas music chart, a lot of them are out of state. They're not all in here. And so, you want to broaden that reach and get to where you can tour all over as much as you can and grow this thing nationwide. I mean, at the end of the day, it's like I've always said, I've already sacrificed my sound once. I'm not doing that again. So I will take traditional, real country music as far as it'll let me go. And if that's all 50 states and other countries involved, cool. If it sticks with just Texas, cool too. So
I think it'll take you a few places for sure, because it's a good sound, and dude, you're putting out some good music, and David, I appreciate you hopping on and having a slightly less strong drink than I am, but I drink nonetheless.
Well, it was the fiance's birthday all weekend, so I definitely, you may be playing catch up with me. So, but no, man, I appreciate you having me, brother. It's good chatting with you, and hopefully we'll do it again soon.
Find more from Hops and Spirits at hopspirits.com.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.